welcome to Real Estate Stories. I'm your host, Cody Coda, co-host here with me, Jake McClure.
How's it going, everyone?
We've got a special guest for you today. We've got Joy Baresel. Did I say your name right?
Baresel.
Say it one more time.
Baresel. It's like a bar in a cell.
Of course.
Ah.
Of course. That's just strange, and I do apologize. It's very clear to me now.
No worries.
Thank you for coming on. So what brought you into real estate, Joy?
Well, so I began in real estate as a flipper, actually. So I got into real estate investments and I started flipping houses. And after buying a few houses with the agent that had it listed, my husband and I started kind of seeing a pattern in what that experience was like. And it seemed to be quite different every time. And we were talking and I was thinking, you know, it's the same process every time, different things happen. So why is it so different? Can it be simpler? Could there be a better way? And that is kind of how I got into real estate, was just by flipping houses and really having success at reselling houses.
Wow. Is that what you did full time before you got into real estate, or did you have another side gig or anything? Or?
Yeah, so I did that full time. And then before that, I taught art and I stayed at home with my kiddos. And when my last kiddo went to school, I started flipping houses. And I still do one a year. That's kind of like my creative outlet, is taking a space and remodeling it. It's kind of my fun thing to do.
You like to kind of see it from the bare bones and having the vision and seeing it through the kind of final product.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love the historic areas. So I've always kind of focused there. And after you've done a few, you kind of know the bones of how everything works. And it's easier to repeat, but I always, you know, I love traveling too. So I like taking things that I see in other countries and other places and bringing it back to incorporate it into flips. So
that is so cool. Yeah, that culture aspect of it, that's awesome. What keeps you in real estate today?
I love helping people. So people are the first thing. I've met all kinds of people that I know I would never have met, you know, just doing a couple other of the careers that I have had. And also curiosity. Every single deal is different and every place is different. And just like last week, I had a client call me and say, hey, meet me on Waterloo and blah, blah, blah. There's this house I want to see. And we drove, and I've probably driven past this place a ton and never noticed. And it was basically looked like a castle on an acreage with basketball courts and all these things. And just like that excitement of, wow, this is an amazing place. And then working through, like, this particular client was interested in turning it into a wedding venue. So then getting to have my curiosity and imagination and design stuff kick in to kind of envision and help clients see this is how it could work. You know, I love that part of real estate. Every day is totally different.
Wow, that's awesome. So how long have you been selling now?
This is my 5th year.
5th year. Great. So out of your 5 years, I'm sure you probably amassed quite a bit of experience, especially doing things at a high production volume that you do. So having said that, accumulating all this advice, what advice would you give your past self from the Joy that just got into the business 5 years ago? If you could fly into the time machine and go back and impart some wisdom on what you've learned so far, what would you tell yourself?
Sure. I think that something that was difficult for me to learn, just because I hadn't been in a career quite like this, is that you can't take things personally. Like, you kind of have to get a little tough and get a little bit of thick skin. And because it isn't simple, Sometimes clients or situations or transactions can be difficult, and if you just have to not take things personally and put your best self out there and keep moving. Because I think people can get very discouraged when certain things happen and then shut down.
I agree. That's really good advice. So to kind of dive a little bit deeper and unpack that, how does one do that though? What's the easiest way for you to not take it personal? Because it's one thing to just say, hey, don't take it personal, and then,
Right.
well, how does that work? How do you accomplish that?
Well, I just have expectations that, it sounds sad, but like I have lower expectations. And I get to a place in my mind and heart where I am just going to make the best decision in every situation that I feel is ethical and for the good of the people, and never persuaded by my own agenda. And in doing that, I know I'm fulfilling like my values that I hold in my life. And so the way people perceive that or the way that they respond to that is their thing that they have to be accountable for and that I can't control. So I just kind of have this like stay in my own lane and do what I know is right and then keep moving forward.
Stay in my own lane. Do what I know is right and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
That's good advice. Okay. Well, how long did it take for you to get your first closing?
Well, kind of funny. So I mentioned that I flipped houses. So as I was flipping houses and selling them, I had several friends and several people that I just met at like the hardware store we just start talking, and they were there buying stuff to fix their house too. And they'd say, well, will you sell my house too? How are you selling those houses so fast? And it's like, sure, I will. And so I was selling houses, just like it just evolved into that organically. And then one day my husband was like, how many houses have you sold now? I would just put a for sale by owner sign in the yard and have him call me. Like just felt like I was helping somebody like do something I knew how to do, And my husband was like, I think you have to have your license to keep doing this. Like you can't sell houses. And so I literally called the real estate commission and said, I'm just helping a few friends like
Oh wow.
sell their house. Is that okay?
So you were doing
and they were like, no, that's not okay.
Super not. That's
Super not
crazy.
okay. But I totally had no idea. There wasn't a moment when I was like, I think I'm gonna try real estate.
It was just kind of by default. You're just like, oh yeah, I'm selling houses. Why wouldn't I help?
Yeah, it's like selling a used car. Like
Right.
I happened probably I was selling. That's when Craigslist was like the big thing. And so I would get furniture and like resell it on Craigslist. It was like, to me, it was like something like that,
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then I got my license. So I started selling houses a little before I got my license.
I might as well just make this legitimate now. Go get licensed and do it.
So legitimately, after you got your license, how long did it take to sell?
It probably took a couple of months.
Okay.
So yeah, after I got my license, my whole thing was I don't know a lot, so I'm just going to be present. So I made sure I was in the office all the time, and I told the whole office, like, whatever you need to do, like if there's something that needs to be done and you don't want to do it, I'll do it, because I need to learn everything,
Mm-hmm.
And so I just started doing whatever they needed, and that really helped. And I think having a group of realtors around you that will let you in to little pieces of real estate to learn is where you'll really grow. And I think that some realtors don't want to do the things that aren't as fun. But
Right.
that's really, if you just jump in and do whatever there is available to do by whoever will let you in, that's how you'll learn. I mean,
No, I
you just have to
100%.
get started.
100%.
Was there
I was gonna say a lot of
was
times
it-
you find it where agents are coming in and they want to, hey, I'm only going to focus on this, or I don't want to do this. They're really kind of like, hey, picky choosy, but yet you got inside there. You just brought up a point of, having agents that you can surround yourself with that's gonna impart, the tips, the wisdoms, and all that type of stuff. They're going to be a lot more likely to do that if they have somebody there that's willing to help out and do things that other people don't want to do. They're going to be a lot easier to respond to that. And I think that's one of the reasons why you're so successful. Go ahead, Jake.
Did you have a mentor that you really that really kind of put you under their wing and helped you along, or was it just kind of a pool of the people of the brokers that you chose?
It was a pool of people, but the broker at the company I started in, she was very transparent about her personal business and created a really neat collaborative environment that I think kind of set the tone that everyone should help each other, and so I would say I definitely give a lot of props to being in that environment where doors aren't shut, and things are stored away so you can't see. I mean, there are some brokerages that I know have classes. I knew that I couldn't sit at a desk and do it. I'm like a have to do it person, and I'm okay. It's not the fun way to learn, but if I do it and I mess up, I'm going to learn. Like I've remembered that, I mean, I've bought refrigerators for people and, because I forgot to check, the walkthrough that the refrigerator was there or something, that's learning the hard way by doing it.
Wow.
But you paid you paid your dues aside. That's part of that. You know what I mean?
I think so.
You make mistakes. Hey, my bad. I got you covered. I'll pick up that fridge. I'll pick up that wash and dryer. Yeah. So what was your support when you first came into it? Were you just like an individual agent? Did you join a team? Did you have assistants? Like, what did that support structure look like for you?
Yeah, my support was really just that attitude of I'll do anything. And I mean, my support at home, of course, my husband is a huge champion of mine and amazing and gave me time, helped with kids and things like that and told me to keep going. So that was a huge support. But yeah, it's really, and it still is. It was and it still is surrounding myself with agents that I think are doing what the kind of business I want to do and have the same values that lift you up. That's my theory, and that's what I've always read. Surround yourself by the people you want to be like. I try to do that, and that's support.
It's really good. So what does that support look like for you today? Or do you manage a team?
Yeah.
Do you manage an office?
So today, well, I've started a brokerage, Engel and Volkers, and so setting that, the values that Engel and Volkers has, and being able to luckily kind of be able to make sure the right people are in the office that have the same values. That is a huge support. It feels like a family, not like a work environment. And then I have an amazing team now. I have a transaction coordinator, an assistant, and buyer's agents, and they're like definitely my little family. So that my transaction coordinator, especially, that is the thing, the most challenging thing for me, or the thing I like to do the least. So having that first hire of an assistant / transaction coordinator, which is really the first hire everybody should have if you're wanting to grow, I believe, is amazing. That was like life changer for me.
What point was that you decided you needed that transaction coordinator in this last few years?
Right, year 3 for me. They say typically at 24 transactions a year, you're going to need something to help you. So
Yep.
that's kind of the marker. That's the marker I heard, which made me feel like, okay, yeah, it's time.
Follow that.
So-
Because I
so it
was
was-
just working all day and then doing paperwork all night and then working
Mhm.
all, uh-oh. Okay. So, yeah. So I was working all day and doing paperwork all night and not having a life, and that
So was it
that wasn't going to
so
work.
So it came out of necessity. It wasn't necessarily a plan. You were just like, I can't do this anymore. I have to get a transaction coordinator.
Right. Well, I mean, I love learning, so I'm always listening to tons of podcasts like this and going, what are other people doing? And that's what I kept hearing was your first hire is a transaction coordinator assistant. Like if it's something that's X dollars an hour, stop doing it. You know, if you can procure business, you know, at a different value.
Love it.
So
That's good. What disillusions did you uncover from when you first got into the business?
So I think mainly, oh shoot. Okay. I think mainly that there wasn't enough business, like that. I don't know that people really choose me to be a realtor because there are 6,000 realtors in Oklahoma MLS, and most of the people I know have already bought a house before, so they have a realtor. So why would they use me? I'm new, you know? And then like don't like letting comparison get in your head, which is a real thing, especially if you're starting out, because you know there are people around me that I felt like, wow, they really know what they're doing. They already have a book of business, or this person maybe is new too, but they know everybody in town and I don't feel like I know anyone. Like the thing is that there is plenty of business. If you do a good job and you know what you're doing and you're kind and you're professional, there's plenty of business for everyone. So not having a scarcity mindset and then understanding that, you know, X person can be a great realtor too, but maybe he is super into soccer and this loves to drink beer or whatever. So he's going to meet another dude that loves soccer and loves to drink beer, and they're going to connect in a different way than, you know, maybe me at bar 3 working out. I might meet someone different. So everyone's going to connect with different agents for different reasons. And that's what's beautiful about being human. Like we're all different and we're going to attract different people. And there's plenty of
different strokes.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. That's well spoken. Who's your inspiration and why?
Well, so really that inspiration for me is, again, always the people around me that I see. So my mom, my grandparents, they all have had, like all of my family has a really intense work ethic. My grandparents, I grew up going to their farm all summer long and going to their farm after school. And, you know, they lived through the Depression. Their parents basically came over on a boat and were settlers after the land run. So I grew up hearing these stories about how hard they work to get where they are. And then I watched my mother, who she got her college degree when I graduated from high school and really started her life, you know, working hard as I was growing up, going to school, and then just seeing her determination to do something new and to be so sick. She's been so extremely successful in her career. And so just firsthand watching people go from, you know, something that seems challenging and pushing through to succeed. I mean, we're definitely grinders. That's what I say. Like, you have to be a grinder.
Right.
I love that work ethic. Okay, what's maybe the most embarrassing story that you would like to share, Joy?
So I'm sure I have more, but the first one that came to my mind was so you have to really focus when you have a lot of transactions going on. Um, some people think in real estate you can like manage your time and have all this free time you can control. It's not true. And so there's always things kind of flying at you. And I was pulling up to the office one day in my car, and this office is like downtown and has glass windows, and there's only street parking. And I was paying attention, but I think there was just a lot going on in my head and probably in my AirPods, and I was trying to parallel park. I'm a really good parallel parker, so it was because of, of all the real estate distractions. And I hit this white Mercedes. Like the office was having a meeting with glass. I hit this white Mercedes as I pull in. What?
So the office could see you through the glass.
Yeah, some of them saw me, which is embarrassing enough. Some of them didn't. And then I had to go in, and it was like just the whole room was around one desk, and I just had to say, "Hey, who drives a white Mercedes?" One of the agents was like, "Yeah, that's me." I was like, "I just hit your car." You know,
Perfect.
Pretty embarrassing.
Well, at least it wasn't a client.
Everyone was watching.
Right. At least it wasn't a client. That would have been.
Oh yeah.
This was an agent.
Try not to hit people.
Yeah.
Sure. That's a good one. What's been maybe just like a scary story you want to share? Maybe show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I did have I had a moment at an open house once. So it was in Deer Creek, and it was 20 acres. The house was like 8,000 square feet. I had a horse barn and all this stuff. And a guy walks in, and he was pretty big, and I just got really bad vibes from him right away. And he had driven his truck like under the portico and parked it so like the door lined up with the front door, which is kind of strange.
Yeah.
Anyways, and he just got kind of big. He wouldn't look me in the eyes. He said he and his family were interested, but he didn't have anybody with him. He was like, just like the movies, like he was wearing all black. His truck was black. It was like everything was black. And so anyways, I was really scared in that moment. And then I realized, and I learned a lesson from this, because I pulled all the way around the 8,000 square foot house and parked my car in the garage and put the garage door down. Just like there's no escaping that situation. So I led him. I was like, you have to see the backyard. So I led him outside, trying to keep a big distance apart. And then I was like, I'll be right back. I'm going to go grab something. I basically walked in the back door, and then I ran to the front of the house and called my husband. And I just kept trying to stay a good distance away. And luckily, these two women came to the open house, and I ran out front, and I was like, you guys, there's someone in there that I'm afraid of. And they're like, it's okay. We'll protect you. And they came in, and he was gone like real fast after they came in, and he never said goodbye, took a flyer. It was just a moment when I thought, there's no way out of this if something goes bad, so you just have to be really careful.
All vibes, though. So I'm with you. You had your sixth sense and intuition.
People showed up.
Right.
So
yeah.
I know. They were like, we'll be your angels. They were adorable. They had cowboy hats on. Because it was equestrian. There were horses. Like, you're my angel girls.
Cool.
Wow.
So,
what's been maybe the most stressful or uncomfortable? If that's the last one to qualify for that, but maybe a closing.
Transactionally.
Yeah.
Right.
Or anything really
so last winter, I had a 7-sided deal where I was representing both people. for a 7-side contingency transaction. So
Super
I
stressful.
had, yeah, that's 4 houses, and they all had to go through getting under contract, going through TRRs, negotiating TRRs, and going to closing. And if anything went wrong, I am the dual agent. So, I mean, it was like 3 months of anxiety because it took about that long to get it all done.
Having to
It
split
was,
yourself into 7 personalities.
Yeah, that reminds me of that we had an agent on that said something similar, except they were dealing with for sale by owners. They were
Oh.
like, back the dominoes were 5, 7, or whatever deep, but then there was no agent involved, and she was
oh
the agent.
no.
And yours, though, was 7 deep, but you at least had some other agents that you could bounce stuff off of, right?
Well, the agents were me. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying,
she's
though.
both sides of all of those.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So you were
So it
the
was like if
agent on-
something went wrong, it was all my fault. So when I looked at one person, I saw like 4 other people that I had to make sure were happy.
Mm-hmm.
But
did it close on time?
it all closed. I don't know if it was on time, but it all closed.
Right.
So
Closing is the important part. On
Yeah.
time is a relative.
yeah, that it was even possible is good.
Good
Oops.
job.
Probably could have
Pretty
closed
proud.
sooner
I
for your
don't know
taste,
how
I
you
would imagine.
strung up 7 deals where you're the agent on all sides, but I'm impressed. Good job. Getting all
Yeah,
that close,
well.
that would be really stressful.
Boss.
That was a lucky moment. It was a good winter, really. I mean, that all didn't happen in the winter. It began in the summer, probably.
What
Hey, Chris was sweet.
Yeah.
what's been maybe the most happiest moment? Any stories that have brought tears of joy to you?
Well, just one that's kind of recent that made me feel good because I feel like real estate often, like when I was looking into getting real estate, I looked up on the internet like best and worst jobs to have, and real estate was like 49 out of 50 is like a bad job.
Really?
And what?
Real estate's ranked as 49 out of 50 in terms of
It was when I looked whatever website I was looking at, it was not a good job. And I feel like sometimes it gets like, it sometimes feels like it could be salesman-y, like, or, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. And, but I mean, I don't believe it. I love real estate. But one of the things that recently just made me feel really good about being in real estate, I have a client that had to move to California for a job, and they were selling their house, and it was dual physicians, like husband and wife were both doctors, and they just went back to California where they're dealing with COVID-19. And really, we're in quarantine going, they're soldiers, they're like on the front lines of a battle. And I messaged them. We got their house under contract, and we closed on it, and I messaged them and I said, thank you so much for the opportunity of helping you in the house, but more importantly, thank you for serving America and humanity and doing what you're doing on the front lines of the medical field. And she was like, Joy, we are all in this together. Thank you for doing what you do and helping us sell our house, because that's brought us some financial peace and some security in this time that feels really out of control. And I think that it's important to remember that it was really cool because we have been deemed an essential business, and it really is important for a lot of people who, even though we're on quarantine, maybe someone sold their house and they haven't gotten to buy another house yet, or maybe they have to move because of a job like this family and they have to sell it. Like, us helping people find a home is really valuable and important and essential they say. So that made me really happy and feel just encouraged, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. I totally agree with. You can tell she has a lot of genuine care, but with telling that
Right.
story, you kind of see how it was like, okay, wow, I'm important too. Let's, you know, how we're all kind of tied together with the butterfly effect of how we're all in it together. That's awesome. What's been your all-time favorite? If you choose any story that you want to share with the viewers of all-time fave.
All-time favorite. I guess I didn't get this one. Um, Gosh, it's so hard to choose, you guys.
I feel you. It's hard to pinpoint one like solid
Yeah.
memory of, you know, especially like based on what you're telling me. You come from a place of real value, like you truly want to help people. So I'd imagine you've strung along a few of these stories that are pretty heartfelt. It's hard to, I mean, it would be hard to pick just one.
It could be.
I mean,
scary,
there was,
happy,
I
sad.
think it's the most, I guess the most impactful ones are when you feel like you're really helping someone,
Mhm.
like in a deep way. And it's a crazy story, but I have one where,
Crazy story.
and I don't know if it will be used, I don't know. The one that keeps coming to my head was an unfortunate situation where there was a divorced couple, and I was helping one of them sell a house, and we got to closing table, and there were some things that they didn't know about that needed to be paid. Somehow it was not known until then. And so they were just like crying and distraught. And that I've had one other crier when she realized her car didn't fit in the garage after closing, which that was sad. That's historic
That's
homes for
brutal.
you.
Yeah.
But anyways, this person realized like he didn't have any money, like, and he couldn't close and he didn't know what to do. So it was like, I don't know. In that situation, I was just like, what do you do? You know, what could you possibly do? So I ended up paying for that house to close because it was like, I don't know what else to do, you know? And,
Wow.
and in that situation, I thought, you know, I win some and I lose some, but I mean, there was no way out for them, you know? So I don't know. That was pretty impactful.
That's what happens when you open your heart to people. Sometimes that's
Yeah.
in the pocketbook too.
I mean, like, what was the aftermath of that? I mean, I'm sure that they
Well, I
just
mean, he
beside
was so
themselves.
thankful, and he was like, you know, I'm happy to barter with you in these ways. Like, this is what I do as a business. If you ever
Mhm.
need this thing, you know, please, you know, reach out. And I mean, he
Right.
was really grateful. But I think the ones where people are in a real tight spot and you help them
Mhm.
wiggle out and you find a way, that is the most impactful, I think, than just, you know, I love matchmaking. That's what I call it. When you have a buyer and they're like, have to have this and this and this and this. And you're like, I'm going to find
Mhm.
your match. That's fun. But
Mhm.
it's, you know, it's more impactful when, you know, like you're helping someone out of something that they feel like is impossible.
Right.
And you just made it so much more of an enjoyable experience for them. Whoever paid for it, you stepped up to it. So good job. What's been the best advice that you've ever gotten in real estate, Joy?
So there's two actually that I feel like I remind myself of all the time. One is that the only thing you can count on is change. And again, I know we're really feeling that in this moment of change. So there's no like constant things. every transaction can be different. You can experience something different every time. Like you have to always be learning to pivot, right? But that's always also why it's enjoyable. But I think most, let's say you're teaching art, which is something I did before. It was like I could do it one time and then repeat that class, and it was basically the same. But that is not, real estate is change and life is change. And the other thing is that there's a lot of gray. So there's not a lot of black and white. There's a lot of gray. And that was helpful to know, because when I first started, I was like, okay, tell me the answer. This is this thing. What is the answer? And it's like, well, there's a lot of gray. You have to know all of the situation and all of the factors. And, there's just a lot to know. So getting comfortable with those two things is really good.
So change was one. What was the other one? Knowing that.
That there's not black and white in real estate.
Gotcha.
There's gray.
There's gray. There's absolutely gray. How would you describe your personality?
I think I'm pretty okay, sorry. I think I am caring and I'm determined. So I do care a lot for people, but I also have a lot of drive to keep growing, keep learning, keep going. What's the next challenge? What's the next bar that we can raise? So I would say determined and caring.
Amazing combination. I like that. What's an area of maybe your personality that somebody, family member or friend has described that you don't necessarily agree with that description of yourself?
Yeah. I think some people might think that I might be arrogant. And I think it's just because I'm focused and I'm confident, maybe, that I kind of go in this way, go into the room like, but it's part of, I'm competing against myself. That's how I always see it. There's no one out there I'm competing against. If there's something I want to achieve, it's against myself. And so that's what's in my head.
Got it. So you think others are taking your confidence and misliving that as being cocky or being arrogant, that it's just you're really confident in, your capabilities and how you care about your clients, which is ultimately why you deliver them great service. What is something that people don't know about you?
Well, that I'm a painter. So the painting behind me is mine. I didn't mean to do that, actually. I just happened to be at this house. So fine art is my major, which is, I think, what propelled me into flipping, that propelled me into real estate. So yeah, whenever I can, I paint. I haven't painted in a long time, but because of the Corona, I've been at home and I've gotten to paint again, which has been a good thing.
Nice.
Do you like to paint portraits more, like the one in the back, or scenery? What is it that you like?
Yeah, mostly portraiture, impressionistic portraiture. Yeah.
Nice. Obviously really good at it. Do you sell any of that stuff on the side?
I used to before I taught art. I would paint and have shows and sell it, but I don't really paint anymore.
The only way I can get one of your paintings is if I buy the house that you flipped.
There you go. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that's a bunch of free staging. You just paint a whole bunch of stuff and put it in houses and just put a price tag on it.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll buy the house because I'm in love with the painting. Cool. Okay, Jake, do you have any follow-up questions for the last two?
So you mentioned that you like to travel a whole bunch. What's your favorite travel destination that you really enjoy going to?
Well, I love Europe. I love getting like out of the country, seeing new places. So last summer, we actually took the whole family for the first time, because we have a 4-year-old and then 2 teenagers. And well, I guess it wasn't the first time, but we went to Iceland and Denmark, and then the kids went home, and then we went to Greece. And so that was really interesting because we kind of went across Europe, starting in Iceland and then all the way over to Greece and then back to Iceland and back home. So Europe is my favorite place to go. And yeah, London particularly, I would totally move to London.
Really?
There's not an Engel and Volkers in London yet, so I have that in my head.
What is it about London that draws you to it?
Well, obviously, they all speak English, which is really nice. Not that a lot of other countries don't. They do, but I like the culture and the museums, and really, I would think it would be a good home base to travel outside of London. If you're ever going to live in Europe, I'd probably choose London. I like cities. I'm a city person.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. I don't really have much. Also, pretty much that's everything off the fly.
Well,
Cool.
Joy, if you were to sell your house, and just hypothetically, let's say you weren't a licensee and you needed to sell your home and you could not select anybody that's currently like in your team or anybody you're working with, you definitely cannot select me or Jake, so you'd want us to. What agent in our local market would you hire to sell your house?
I would hire Sherry Stetson, the Stetson team. They're a really great team, and I know she is very thoughtful, but also not afraid of confrontation, which I think is important to have a good negotiator on your side. So that's who I would choose.
Nice.
Awesome.
The Stetson team, do they wear the hats?
No, but that's a good idea. They need to do that.
I feel like that'd be easy branding. Just throw one of those hats on and,
Yeah.
Marlboro man.
So you talked about it a little bit earlier in terms of like our local metro. You said you quoted 6,000 agents roughly. Because of that, there's a lot of agents out there. What makes Joy unique and different than them all?
I think I always talk about how I can see things differently because of the art part. But then also going back to my family and the heritage here. So just being a native Oklahoman forever, all of my family has lived here, and I've kind of lived a lot of different places in Oklahoma. So just the knowledge of the market and being able to see things maybe other people can't in a home.
That's awesome. I definitely agree. Just visiting with you, I think you do have an eye for art and beauty, and I think that serves your clients very well. I really enjoyed this interview. Jake, I know you did. Joy, where can the viewers find you?
You can find me at joybarsel.evrealestate.com.
Okay, well, awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. Enjoyed the time.
Thank you, guys.
Catch everybody next
Appreciate
time.
it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day.